Yeah, that's right. This would have been the one.
Oh, well. Our neighborhood is getting quite,
Yeah, I've seen those
a
pictures.
lot of activity.
Yeah, I need to take one and send it to the
Okay,
person that
I
does the
think we're
skating,
here.
'cause we got
I've been
one right
tagging.
next. Oh, have you?
I've been tagging a lot. I haven't seen Evan, I've been super busy.
Yeah.
I think he should do a skin official and then do a.
Okay, everyone, it looks like we're here and we're ready to get the meeting started. I'll turn it over to Susan.
Yeah,
because
well,
Zach is out.
Zach can't make it today. So I will start the meeting, I guess, with some introductions. We'll just kind of go around and then maybe people on screen, and maybe we'll start with everyone here and then people on screen. I'm Susan Napak, I'm the vice chair.
Brian Hart, commission member.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
Oh, me too. Jennifer Keller, Parks and Rec Division Manager.
And I'm Kathleen Swarm with Parks and Recreation. I'm the staff liaison.
Crystal Hour, Commissioner.
Kenneth Diora, GIS technician with the City of Salem Enterprise Services Department.
Great, thanks, everybody. This is Kathleen's first meeting, official meeting. She's done a great job. We're all live and going full force. So I just would like to, I guess, call the meeting to order. I probably should have done that first before introductions. So call the meeting to order. Are there any public comments, Kathleen?
None that I've received.
Okay, great. Approval of the consent agenda and the minutes. There was just one typo in the minutes. I don't know
Okay.
if that's,
No, it's good to bring up. We can always,
and you know, I don't
Fix it.
know if I can find it again. Should have. It was just a misspelling typo. But
Okay.
I can point it out to you later, but so maybe I'm gonna say that we should approve the minutes with that typo
okay,
fix when I find it again.
great. I
So
appreciate that.
move approval of the consent agenda with that, noting that correction.
Yes,
Perfect.
That was a motion.
that was a motion to move. Thank you, Chris. I move to approve the consent agenda with that one correction to the minutes from the September 11th meeting.
Second.
Perfect. Agenda is approved.
Okay.
We didn't vote on
Do we need to vote on it?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Is there anyone that does not approve? Can we do that? Or do we have to do approval on?
it. Why don't you just call for a vote? All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes. Discussion items, update on the GIS directory app, and we have Kenneth here to talk to us about that. And tell us exactly what that is too, please.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. I am someone who has been working with the public art data since about 2017. I started as an intern and I worked with the data when it was just kind of just an Excel form, and I've kind of tried to grow it since that point. I'd like to be able to share my screen if I can, and hopefully show you so beyond just the story map tour, which I created in 2017 and then redid again in 2022, the app that highlights the different specific pieces throughout the city. I'd like to also show you what I've recently put together, which references our production database, basically, and allows you to be able to do more with it. So if you can just bear with me a second while I share my screen. Let's see. Oh, I've never done this before on Zoom. Enable. Okay. I'm sorry, does somebody know how to, I'm looking at my video share options, the settings, and share screen, I see share all windows from an application. It's not really allowing me anything on the bar here to choose a window on my computer. But that was my intent, was to show you the directory app. Does anybody know?
You should be seeing your desktop when you click on the share button, if it's set that that you can share. Is that, Kathleen, is it set up that anyone can share?
I do believe so.
Okay, you should be seeing a kind of an image of your desktop, and then you can kind of click on the image that you want from your desktop.
Oh, maybe I'm just panicking. I just don't see it right now.
Do you see the green arrow share button on your bottom panel, or?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Zoom is tricky because that bottom panel disappears.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Are you seeing
Yeah.
a public art? Great. Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the data itself and how it came to you where it is. And then also, if you want to get into the editing workflow, we can, but if we don't have enough time, that's fine. I just really wanted to also showcase the public art directory that I created. So like I said, it started, the data model or the form started with the title, artist name, description of, which was basically the medium of the art piece, as well as the collection it was located in and the general location. And then in 2017, we added some more items there that you can see, which included visibility, like whether or not it was temporarily taken down to put into storage, or the created date for the piece, as well as options for our photo. And what I recently did with working with Keith, as well as the library, David Mueller, was work on something that was going to incorporate that data into an app that was going to work or function on the new kiosk that they're getting in the library, as well as something that would provide a catalog for the public down the line, if this is something that's approved by you guys, if you guys like it, to be able to be used as something that you could search through all the art pieces as a repository, instead of just the story map, which highlights a select amount of pieces throughout the city. And so I'll just demo that first and show you guys what that looks like. Let me sign in. Okay. That didn't come over. Can you guys see that? Are you guys able to see the, or do I need to switch the screen?
We can see, it looks like a grasshopper.
Yeah.
That's the title.
Yeah, yes, correct. This is the public art directory that I created that would work on the kiosk. Lots of scrolling capability for something like a kiosk, as well as different searching options. So this is the landing page, and then you can go to either the map view or any of these, but they'll take you to what I've called the directory here, which allows you to search in a few different ways. The data, you can put in a title up here. If you're using the app from your own device, I believe the kiosk may not have a keyboard to use that here, but you can scroll down to the piece you're looking for there. That's all alphabetized. And then the artist name, we added a new field, which takes last name first and then first to organize the artist name. These detail buttons will give you something that looks similar to an art card or a label when you click on it, which should have, it's current status, how it was acquired, and any labels I could find. I tried to add that into the data if I could, and that was from the SPAC folder. I was just going through there and trying to add those fields in there. There are some items, yeah, you'll notice in the data that are still blank, and at some point you may want to have someone, either an intern, volunteer, whatever, work on trying to add those little fill in those little blanks, but they're here and there. And let's see, we also have the discipline in case you just want to see drawings. It should zoom into just where the drawings are at, etc. for these other mediums. And then locations, we expanded the locations to not just include the items that were featured in the previous story map. So it should also include, well, it just started to kind of grow here. I put in the South Salem one since it's down here, but I also have a South Salem, West Salem, East Salem, North Salem. So those are all options as well within the data now that can be added. There are mediums that are not represented here, as you guys probably are aware of, like the street paintings and stuff like that. That again would be something for data entry at a later point in time. And then the last page I have here is just kind of a connection back to either the SPAC webpage, or we do have open data where the public can download this data for their own use in their own maps, or over to the self-guided tour that exists currently. And that's really the crux of what I wanted to show you guys today. I can get into the editing process or talk about the benefits of having your data in a production database, such as having added security, like knowing who the last person that edited it was, or accuracy by eliminating data errors by using drop-down fields, which have pre-programmed values in there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to take up too much time. I feel like I've been talking for a while. I apologize. Are there any questions or?
You mentioned something about data gaps a little bit ago. Can you?
Oh, yes.
What would be, what are we talking about in terms of gaps?
Sure. So as you can see here, this is just a view of the table itself, kind of some of the data. Now, some of these don't need to be filled, obviously, because they're not on a first floor level. But this is the type of thing I'm talking about for some of these other fields, like on the, let me close this out. So let's go to the directory here. So if I'm looking at this one here, there might be like an acquisition that's null data, so it's empty data in the table. I don't know if that needs to be updated or anything like that, but I'm just saying those are things that could be, if you notice that they're missing and they should be there, that would be something that could be added. Yeah.
And are you pulling copy from the label material that was produced for the library?
Am I pulling copy? What do you mean?
Your text, which describes a work of art, what is the source of that text?
Oh, yes, that's from the SPAC folder here that has, let me show you. So within the current SPAC link, under, let's see, I think it was art inventory, and then artwork labels, I think was one of them, under versions and batches. That was where I found some of this stuff. I was just kind of adding it in there so I had something to show you guys. But it can be, we can change it to whatever you like. Obviously, if you feel like it's outdated or, but yeah, this was what was in the SPAC folder.
Yeah,
These-
there's very good content from all of the work in the library and a
These are,
team.
these are them. These are the library labels.
Right, I can see that. But a question came up within the last couple of weeks about kind of the quality of some of the work that was not done for the library, which remains to be done, and photography that Susan used the word subpar. So as this database is made more robust, we want to make sure that whatever is getting loaded up is fact-checked, edited, there's a
Sure.
certain word count, et cetera.
Sure, yeah.
So I just would just get that on the record. And the photography, I'm looking across a room at this, but this looks pretty good. We know that there are some other works that need to be rephotographed.
I have a couple questions. What percentage of the collection do you have in there now in any form, even if it's just the title or, if we don't have a good photograph or whatever?
There are currently 168 pieces that we have in the data at this point in time. There are not everything has a photo, like you were saying. Some of the stuff is in storage, and those are not going to pop up on the map. But they'll be noted if you search for them. Like if I put in the drummer, you'll see here that it's temporarily unavailable. But that's because it's in storage, and I could put a location on here if people want to know that. But
Actually, not in
It's not,
storage.
it's
It's not in
150
storage.
plus.
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so
Well,
we
that's
cannot have it.
yeah, I just have what I mean, I'm just working with what I was
Yeah.
given,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are all are you saying that I don't know what the total number in the collection is, are you saying that all the pieces that we know about are now somehow represented in your database?
Yes, correct.
Wow.
As far as I know, yes.
Or at least most should be. Yeah,
Great,
that's good.
yeah.
The database that I've been working with, there are 160 or 171, so that's
Okay.
very close.
Okay.
Great.
No, that's great.
The other question is, well, do you see that this might be, I don't know how it would work with the city, but as a standalone app that people could download?
It is currently a web app that it would be similar to the tour map link. We could put a button for it, and then people could access it from the city website, and it would be just like this. Yep.
So it would be you'd have to log into the city website though. So
No, it would be publicly facing, like when you go to cityofsalem.net and then you put in the Salem public art. When you go to this page, basically, the cityofsalem.net government, like, see how this has a highlight for the online tour. This would be the same thing. It would say, public art directory or catalog, whatever you want to call it.
But it would only reside within the city of Salem website.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
It would reside within the city of Salem website. It wouldn't be a standalone app that people could get, from somewhere else.
Right, correct. You'd have to navigate to the cityofsalem.net website.
Okay. No, it's great. I think, for us to be able to get all that information together and get it all correct and on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of image editing services there are in the city. I had mentioned that I do have, I have image editing skills that could at least bring some of those pieces up to not quite subpar, maybe a little bit above subpar, just to kind of make them look a little better. Like I'm noticing that the way that they were photographed, some of them, there's the frame and the wall. I mean, they could be cropped and
And then
but I don't know how the city functions that with volunteers doing things like that. Or if you have the ability to do it yourself.
And one other thing I think I wanted to mention was that you now have the capability of adding documentation as well as images to these pieces. So for example, I think the fly has multiple pictures on it. Yeah, so you can now add multiple photos on here instead of just one. And also what we do with GIS is after the edit by either the liaison, the volunteer, the intern, whatever is made, and then if GIS is told that the edits are good for another update to the public, what we'll do is we'll basically pull that down, put in a query to make sure the content types are not showing anything but the images to the public facing side. And then those documents can still be related to individual pieces in the database.
I'm not sure I understand what you just said.
Okay, so if you have, let's say, a PDF that says, it's some acquisition information, like a form, and you wanted it to be tied to the fly. But you also, and maybe you have multiple photos you also want tied to the fly art piece. You can have those things both attached to the database, so those official documents are associated with those pieces. And then what we'll do is add a filter that says the documents don't go public, the images do, as well as the point locations and the rest of this information.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm not officially in charge of anything that I know of yet because I'm new to this role. So I want to first say, kind of, in my opinion, this looks incredible. Thank you so much. This is really, really impressive. This is my first time getting to see this. So thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. It's great. And then I heard a wonderful offer for some help with editing, and I love that. So now I'm going to lean on Jennifer to see if there is anything official with the city with logistics before we can accept Susan's help.
No, she's, certainly if she wants to provide that role, we can certainly do that, and she can work in conjunction with Kenneth with regard to making sure that before it's uploaded to the public facing, that it's shared with him, and certainly copy Kathleen just so that she's involved in the loop from the city things. But no, she can work with Kenneth directly kind of on that process, on how that would work, and yeah, no issues.
And of course, ideally, we should have them beautifully photographed. They should all be professionally done. But in the meantime, even for Krista's posts, if it's keeping her from posting something because the image isn't good, and if it's a workable image that we can make a little bit better or what good enough, then I can look through and see, maybe we can work with her too to see Krista, what your priorities are as far as getting work up there. You had mentioned that maybe there were some that weren't quite ready for prime time, that maybe you could kind of let me know, and working with Kenneth, and I can kind of work with those images first.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kenneth, thank you so much for showing us this. I think it's going to be a really wonderful and useful tool, not only for us, but also for the public. So thank you so much for that. I have a couple questions, just logistically. Is there a timeline that we're looking to make this live and active? Obviously, yes, there are a lot of details that we need to be filled in. Are we looking to kind of accomplish all of that first before we launch this? Or is this something that we essentially would launch and then update as we are able to take new photographs, as we're able to find new information? Or is there a plan at all at this point for any of that?
Oh, yes. That's beyond my pay grade. I will follow your lead on answers to those questions. Yeah.
How much of it is public at this point?
This is not public at this point. This is all internal. But the intent is to eventually make it public. Yes.
Well, how do we feel about that? I mean, do we want to put something out there with things that aren't quite labeled yet? Or, I mean, some of them are probably well done, the ones that were done for the library.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of work's already been completed.
So those are, in good shape, but then there's others that we might not wanna put out there. I mean, do we wait till it's all You know, it's perfect, or do we try to get?
So I'm seeing a screen from across the room. I can't see a lot of the detail, and maybe it would be good to just look at just a sample of data to see. I know some of the copy that's been written is really not very good. So looking at that percentage, getting that stuff edited, like in the library, I think there are 80 pieces there, that's all finished, done, fact checked. I'd rather maybe take it to the next level before making it go live for the public, just to troubleshoot, stuff first. I mean, the images that I'm seeing from across the room, they're crisp, they look good. That's good news. I don't know, I'm just one person. I guess I do have a question now that I'm looking at was looking at the one that you had up right before this one. Not these detailed pieces, but the map. Is this map view? It seems like there's a whole lot of information that is on a single screen. Did anyone else have that reaction?
The fact that you have something on the bottom, you have the map, and then you have the side.
It looks like you would have to really zoom in to figure out what's going on from where I'm sitting now.
I mean, I kind of like when it zoomed out that it just shows that, like, this is so much art. There's a ton of art everywhere. And then, yeah, you can get kind of specific or search it.
Well, plus, yeah, I like the search on the side.
Yeah.
If you click, could you just, as an example, click on one of those dots that looks like it's around downtown? And then what happens?
To that piece, maybe.
Oh, there's the drummer, but,
Because the thumbnail.
okay.
Click on it. Yeah. Okay.
So my question also would be, who's gonna write the copy?
So,
Well, probably 8 people worked for 2 years on the library. Truly, they received an award from the city for that
Oh, wow.
work. Yeah,
Wow.
well, that's why I'd be interested in knowing what's left.
Yeah.
And then we can see if
Yeah.
it's easy or hard, we can split up the work.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah,
look
is there a way, Kenneth, that like before the next meeting, all of us essentially could gain access to this so we can kind of take a look and go
Yeah.
through it and kind of see
Absolutely.
where it's
Yeah.
at right now, and then we can kind of make a plan based on that.
Yep. I absolutely can. I can share to a group and you guys can have access to that.
How
'Cause, yeah,
easy,
I think a good amount of it is probably in there because I think this essentially is a combination of the labels that are at the library, part of what is included on the website currently with the art tour. But it's just kind of putting all that information together. So realistically, I think we'd have the base of a lot of the info we need. It would just be some of that, updating that information, and then kind of cross-referencing it as well with all the data that we have in the specific folders. So like the acquisition info, that kind of thing. Some of the works we have that information, some of them we don't. But it looks like it's a pretty good, at least first go around right now. So.
and Kenneth, how easy is it gonna be to give me access to download the images to work on them? Is that a whole nother level of, permission?
I believe the images reference currently these images are referencing a URL that's through the city of Salem. You should be able to publicly get to those images right off the bat, but some of the other ones, like I wanted to show this fly example because I saw multiple images for the fly and I figured, oh, I can highlight the fact that you can attach multiple images to this by adding those in there. So those are from the folder of the fly that's in the SPAC network folder. So as long as you have access to that, those are where those photos are coming from. It's in the SPAC folder.
So yeah, Susan, what I've been utilizing is the folders, but then again, not all the folders have all the information. There's also just the general Google Sheet database, which has links. Those were the links that were broken for a little while that have now been
Right.
fixed. But some of the photos are different in that versus in the folder. So that would be, there should be something in some of them. There are a couple I have found that don't have images, but it's not too many that have nothing.
Okay, well, we can figure that out offline. So, Kenneth, thanks a lot. Unless anybody has any more questions, I think we can move on. Thanks a lot. Good job.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
great.
no problem. Thank you guys.
I hope you're enjoying working with it.
I am. Yeah, it's really great. Thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, accession of the library art collection. What's going on with that?
I did get an update from Mark Weinstein, our city attorney today, and he said he's working on it, and to tell you guys, he's working on it and he should have a draft to us very soon. He may have some questions for us and edits, but that he has it on his radar, he's working on it, and he should get back to us very soon.
So I just a comment. So this is not a random collection of artwork. It's work that's owned by a city affiliated library foundation. And it's not moving from one place to another. It's all been photographed. It's all been cataloged in terms of description. And so he is working on a legal document that will be a gift transfer from the library foundation to the city. So my only reaction is it shouldn't be that complicated because the pieces are already in the possession of the city. Like there's nothing dangerous, moving, lights up, strobe lights, none of that. Low risk is what I'm saying, so.
Because they're all staying where they are.
I
Exactly.
guess it just has to do with ownership. I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Well, this
Some people.
library foundation already owns it all. Like we're dealing with one owner, to one owner.
Right.
It's not like
Right,
one artist,
yeah,
collaboration, yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they pick up every stone and look under it just to see if there's anything we could, who knows? But it's good that he's working on it and hopefully it'll happen soon.
Well, and the city did a gift document, Mark did, for the gift of the Betty LeDuc triptych that's in the library at the lower level. So you shouldn't have to start from zero,
Okay.
but it's good that it's in process.
Yes,
And if he said, does he have any kind of ETA at all, or?
I haven't been
just
given
he's
one.
working on it?
I haven't
Okay.
been given one.
I think the other thing, not to interject, we should keep in mind is that he does a lot of work for a lot of
Sure.
departments in the
Yes,
city, so
understood,
it's not just for this, so
Yeah.
their workloads are very heavy, so a lot of
Right,
departments.
that's what I was wondering,
so
if he
it-
has an ETA,
yeah.
it's like, I'm working on it in a month or 6 months,
Yeah,
just so we
yeah.
know
I don't
the
know,
ballpark figure. but
yeah, the priorities
who knows?
sometimes can change, but with the best of intentions, they start something
Sure,
and then
sure.
other things become
Something
a
more,
bigger
yeah,
priority
something
with the
more.
city, so he wears a lot of hats in the attorney's office, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So next is the review draft strategic positioning document. I think last meeting we talked about sort of marrying the overview to the work plan. Has anything been done on that?
I did receive an email from Keith right before this meeting, and I haven't been able to review his work, but he did, what I think from just glancing at his email is that he actually created a document that does Miriam for us. So Keith, if you get to see this, thank you for that work, and we'll,
there?
I don't think he's here, but he's going to watch on YouTube and
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'll make sure, I'll take a look at that and I'll share that with the board as soon as I look it over and make sure there's not, any major spelling mistakes or anything, but he just got that to me minutes
cool.
before the meeting, so he did some work on that, and then we can hand it over to you guys and see, where you'd like to take it from there.
So you think by next meeting we can kind of
Yes.
hammer it out? Maybe we should plan a chunk of time to do that, because I know it sort of is a lot.
Yeah, and I'll
So
make
maybe-
sure that everybody as soon as possible, gets a copy for them to review in their own time and have edits ready,
Great.
suggested edits anyways.
Anybody
To
else have a
clarify,
comment
is that,
on
is
that?
that the action plan and then what you work
Yeah,
on?
what,
Is
so
that
we
what
have the,
That's what that we're talking
yeah, we
about?
had
Okay.
started before, Chris came back on, with more of a
Like
kind of an
action.
action plan with specific
Got
tasks.
Yeah.
That some people had stepped up to do, and, you know, and then, you know, I think it was great that Chris kind of had this
So it's
big
those two.
picture of why the heck would we even do these
Right,
things?
okay.
So then to kind of marry it, and I think that will also help with our presentations that we're gonna make to the council and neighborhood associations and things like that too. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, what I think would be helpful, you know, the Civic Center is gonna be redesigned. The Peace Plaza is gonna get some attention. We've got, you know, in the next year and a half, something will happen with the Echo Earth Globe in the Riverfront Park. You've got the Salem Peace Mosaic, you know, still in storage, final site unknown. But, and then thinking about, you know, is the city of Salem gonna seek some national grant funding that might help with public art, the Bloomberg, the question about Bloomberg funding. And, you know, I find that, there are some people in our fair city who like to complain about everything. And so just having some prepared thinking about why are we doing this? You know, makes our parks better, it makes us happy, it's fun for children, you know, it looks at our various cultures, but just being prepared with some of that material as we, you know, celebrate what we've got going on and then look forward kind of into the future.
I agree.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing what Keith worked on.
Yeah. Great. Willamette University Yarn Bomb, I think that should be a bomb, B-O-M-B, it's a B-O-M.
Is that a yarn bomb? With the B?
Yeah, yarn bomb, should be. So last time, they just, what were they looking for? Were they looking for permission? Were they looking for us to promote it? What were they looking for?
Yeah, and it's too bad Zach isn't here because
Yeah.
we actually had a meeting where Zach attended
Oh,
with the
okay.
professor from the
Oh, cool.
Willamette University to discuss this project. I was hoping he would be here. I do have a little bit of notes I can share that I took from the meeting. So the project is proposed to be called Scarves for Salem.
Should we share that so,
Krista can see it.
See,
Let me
yeah.
share. Krista wants to see this, see my notes.
And who was the professor?
David Atman, I think was his name, David.
Yeah, I think it's in the top of the
Yeah,
notes there.
something
Oh,
like that.
okay. I'm not familiar with him.
Okay, let me make it full screen so it's easy to see.
Thank you.
David Altman, I believe is the professor's name. So Scars for Salem is the proposed name of the project. And the goal is to offer knitted goods for those in need. However, they think that there is a larger purpose there as well, that this installation, a temporary installation of knitted goods serves other purposes such as public awareness for those in need, but also general beautification of our parks and spaces where this would be installed. And they see that there's a possibility to strengthen connection between the college and community. So to bring these different entities, which I believe you guys have spoke about as well, is that these other entities that are interested in public work, how can we collaboratively work together? They're aiming for November 15th-ish, depending on the weather, because they would want it to be a period of no rain. So they're looking for around November 15th-ish. And they think it would be installed for 3 days to a week or so. Although they did mention that when they've done a similar installation at Willamette University even, so this is a closed campus, everything disappeared on the first day, that people really enjoyed it and the items were taken. So they think that it would there's a possibility that it wouldn't last for 3 days
Sure.
because the goal is for these knitted goods to be taken by people and hopefully used by people who would need them. And that there would be signage and that the students are open to creating signage. And then we also spoke about making sure that the project was in alignment with SPAC as well. So we would want signage potentially created by SPAC or to think through what does this alignment and agreement look like for this sort of temporary installation.
Where's the installation gonna happen?
Riverfront Park is what they would prefer, and they're thinking around the Eco Globe actually would be where they're
The fencing.
the fencing around it.
Okay. And what is it, so what does it look like? Like they'll be knitting, like, let's just say a sweater?
And a lot of
scarves.
scarves.
Or scarves.
Scarves.
That's right, it says scarves,
Yes.
okay. And then put the, kind of hang them
And
there.
hats.
And then anyone can just come in
Yeah,
without big people there to
Skype.
meet and
Yeah,
talk
cool.
to them. I mean, did they mention how they saw it actually happening?
Yeah.
They did talk a little bit about the installation process and how it would be happening, that this is typically done at night, they say, these
Yeah,
yarn
it's more
balls.
of a,
It's at night and then in morning,
Secret.
it's like a colorful, fun thing that people get to experience.
Mhm.
However, I think that this would be fine for them to do an installation during the day and that it would not take more than a work day to do the installation and that it would be done during the day. They would want to think about how they would affix the items to the fence.
And part of the
Sure.
signage is to offer kind of what the intent, that it is a
Mhm.
temporary art installation
Sure.
project and what the intent is, so that they
Yeah.
know it's intentional. It's an art piece, and that it's, being presented kind of in conjunction and with the support of the Salem Public Art Commission, so it's also showcasing your role in that, but that's part of what that signage would help to
Yeah.
kind of help with that broader message, so if folks aren't there, because there isn't realistically gonna be somebody standing there all day long,
Right.
day and night, so that folks know, because what we don't want when we met with them, an unintended consequence of then people start, hanging a bunch of crap that we don't want in the park, thinking, oh, let's just hang
Have a
things here
yard
kind of thing,
sale.
that this is a specific project and what the intended
Yes.
purpose is and to do that. So that's where, they're gonna work on a little bit of that signage and then they'll work with us on that to ensure that that messaging is kind of clear.
Yeah.
And folks know what to expect. They also talked about working with a broader group of folks for their inventory for this project. I mean, previously it was people in that particular class that kind of knitted the stuff and do that. And given that this is kind of out of the campus and in kind of a larger arena, so to speak, and they wanted to be able to maybe encompass more people than it typically would, that other folks had expressed interest in participating in the
Right.
project and knitting
Right.
stuff and to do that, so that, really increasing their inventory level. In fact, we even talked with them about if folks were interested in doing that, how we could help share a message with folks and provide that link to them to be like, hey, if you're interested in, wanting to have, some level of participation and, here's whom you contact, here's how that process would work for them. So they're trying to make it a little larger than it's been in the past.
Have they done this before?
They've done it for the last several years but it's been focused at Willamette University. They do it only at Willamette. This is kind of this group of students wanted to kind of venture out and do something more community centric as opposed to just college focused.
how many pieces do they usually do? If they're expanding it, like, do they know how many they want? Like, do they have a number?
I don't know that they
Not quite sure.
specifically said, I don't remember that he said a specific number, I don't know. Was it like
November's not-
180 some or something, I don't know,
I don't
vague
know why.
recollection.
Over 100 is in my mind,
Yeah,
that's
some
what
kind
it
of
was.
That's
vague
cool.
recollection was kind of thing.
Because that really looks like something,
Yeah.
versus if it's 10,
Yeah.
scarves or something.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I don't even wanna ask this question, but is this like something that falls under what SPAC is allowed to do, or is this now because we're under parks? Because we, in the past, have been kind of not been able to really do temporary art installations that fall within SPAC. So I think it's fabulous. It's something that we have in our strategic plan. It's something that Linda Nishioka has said to council that she wants us to have temporary art, but it hasn't been codified.
So I think there's kind of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump in, but
Yeah,
you know, there's a couple processes. So you're right, there's been a different focus, I think, over the years, right? Because part of the concern, speaking on behalf of kind of parks, part of the concern, whether it was temporary art or permanent art, we weren't necessarily actively involved in those conversations. It was more at the back end where, hey, this is happening in the park. And in some cases, that was problematic for us, you know, where it was being located, how it affected the maintenance in the park, all of those kinds of things, you know, or we're aware of some issues maybe that happen in parks that other folks aren't of, that maybe we wouldn't have recommended that particular location, for example. So maybe in that park, but maybe not that particular location, or maybe another park, but regardless. So I think some of that stuff has morphed over the years. You know, council changes, focuses become different as you get new council members in. And you're right, Councilor Nishioka is very prevalent in wanting, you know, wanting to see more temporary art kinds of things in parks. So there's that whole piece, I think, that's changed. And I think, you know, to be honest, now that SPAC is under Parks and Recreation, we feel we have more direct involvement. We can be part of those discussions. We're not necessarily opposed to that happening. We just want to make sure that if we're putting something in there, that the intent of why you're putting it in there and that it's successful. You know, so even when we had the meetings with Willamette University, part of that was not because necessarily we were opposed to the project, but we wanted to talk about the site locations and give them some recommendations on what, because we want it to be successful. And if you put it in certain locations, we've seen where folks have done that, and it's very demoralizing. You put something in and then it's graffitied or it's vandalized that night, and you know, it's not a positive takeaway. It's not a positive experience. And so, you know, with SPAC being under Parks and Rec now, I think we have a little bit more ability to have those kinds of conversations and to see where we can make successful ventures where it makes sense to do that without really impacting significantly the stuff that happens in the parks, but still also helps push the art component for the city forward. So
I guess I was
it's a
thinking
morphing,
more about code. Because it's not in the code for
It's
SPAC
not.
to be able to do.
Yeah,
as
so
far as I understood the code to be.
yeah, so a lot of that has to do with kind of stuff being under the sign code with regard to like murals and those kinds of things.
Right.
But which doesn't make sense to
Right.
sign code, you know,
Yes.
it's kind of loose verbiage.
Yes.
I think the intent is to make those revisions to the sign code, but before those are formally, when we've had meetings with Mark Weinstein, I've had meetings with Mark Weinstein previously about that and community development department, because that's where the sign code lies, and so forth, specifically with regard to, you know, fence painting, which they consider murals and all of those kinds of things. So there does need to be code change. I think what legal is wanting is, let's make sure when we make a code change, it encompasses everything we want it to encompass, so that it's done one time. So they just want, so there's been some discussion with some specific types of art stuff. But some of those definitions need to change, some of those code language needs to change to incorporate temporary art. So it's less than, you know, the 7-year span and all those kinds of things. So that's in the works. We're not there yet. We'd have to take those code changes back to council as well at some point. But I think, like I said, from Mark's standpoint is, let's really flush that out. So it's not just addressing, for example, fence painting and murals. If there's other language that needs to be amended or added or deleted or however that looks like, let's do it all at one time. So it kind of, you know, covers all of that to get it to where you want it to be.
Right.
And then, you know.
Yeah, you're here.
And
I
then
think we're all for that.
And then
I'm just
take it to
wondering,
council.
has we been green lighted to have this particular project fall within the auspices of SPAC?
So we.
I mean, it's on the agenda, so I assume.
We have,
I'm just triple
we've
checking
done
you
it,
that,
this is
because I
very,
think
you know,
it's
just a kind of a couple day, this is very transitionary kind of temporary art, you know, so it's not like, oh, it's gonna be here for 6 months, or oh, it's gonna be here for a year, this is
Yeah.
very, and it, you know, that it comes in, you know, literally could be a few hours, it's still
Right.
over there, you know,
Sure.
depending. So we've done this is a little bit of a, maybe like a little bit of a test
Yeah.
kind of thing, you know, is kind
Yeah.
of dipping our toe in to be like, hey, to us, it's pretty insignificant. I think if, you know, as we progress and wanna start looking at other things, then that may dictate the time frame of we've gotta move up with some of these code changes so that that encompasses that. But this is pretty, you know, it's pretty nominal in, you know, as far as impact to the park, it's, you know, it's those kinds of things, so it's
Okay.
almost a
Just
little
go
bit
for
like a
it.
display-ish kind of thing, so we're tipping our toe in and we're just,
Cool.
we're gonna
That's
do
great.
it until somebody tells us that we shouldn't have.
Okay. I won't tell anybody.
But no, I think
Hello.
it's fine, I mean, folks are aware of it, that it's happening, you know, we've
Yeah.
shared it, so it's not, we're not doing it in a silo, but.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a cool collaboration. Usually with yarn bombing, you don't ask permission.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
crochet
Yeah, you just
around
do
the
it
tree.
overnight, yeah, the difference is,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious how this is gonna actually play out on the fence around the Echo Earth globe, but, I don't worry about the code at all. I think that, you know, Mark could step out of wherever his office is and see this and have some issue about risk. It wouldn't surprise me, but, you know, it could be cool, you know, you have to take some risks sometimes.
Yeah. I love it.
And I think it's, you know, I think of Willamette as a big parcel that has public art potential. That's part of our downtown area, and it seems like, okay, they've got students and an art teacher who wanna get involved, let's see what can happen.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, this
Yeah, it's too
start
bad
a
it
good
was, the
relationship.
weather, you know, it's too bad it wasn't happening like right now, cause it's not super cold and it's dry and it,
Yeah.
you know, but whatever,
I think they're trying to coordinate it from my recollection in the meeting is that's kind of when their you know, when their class ends, and so it's kind of a, you know, an end project for those
Right.
students, and so it just happens to be the timing for, you know, which I agree, you know, it's probably yarn, weather outside is probably not the best combination, but
yeah,
you know, where they're putting it, I mean, part of where they're putting it is also gonna hit a lot of the folks that they want to be able to utilize those things, because, you know, you have the connectivity, not only Riverfront with Marion Square, and then the connectivity with Wallace and Minto and the bridges, so, and that word of mouth spreads very, very quickly among that population, so, you know, I think there's probably, it's gonna, I would be really surprised if it lasted 3 days, to be honest, and you know, I think it's really gonna be like a, you know, potentially a day or so or
Well,
less.
It's perfect for scarves.
Yeah, and stuff,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
right.
I
so,
think it's a great thing
Yeah.
to tout it as an event, as a community
Yeah.
event, that's sponsored by the city is wonderful and.
yeah, so I think it's good to
great,
start,
fabulous.
and
I
again,
like
start getting that,
crochet. I crochet, I don't knit.
Yeah.
I do a scarf.
getting that messaging out, that it is, you know, again, kind of dipping our toe in without saying that kind of, that it's an art,
Yeah.
temporary, you know,
No,
kind
it's
of
great
a
to
little
hear.
art kind of thing, and that it's that kind of thing, so it kind of helps
And when
start that process.
when it comes to logistics and codes in parks a little bit, parks are different than like public facing streets. So the codes are different, including sign codes. If you think about most events at Riverfront, there's actually a ton of signage there for the different vendors who are there, for the event themselves. And so when it comes to events in parks, there are ways that we could potentially approach this. So Jennifer and I will work together to make sure that we can logistically make it all happen, but I think there's a way that we can move this one forward and try it out, and we can build from there.
I think we'd love to see more projects like this.
Yeah, that's very
sure.
cool. I have one more quick question. So yard bombs are usually during a night,
Mhm.
kind of a secret, you know, but like this one, are we good with like sharing the news that it's happening? It kind of goes against that
So,
yard bomb, but.
so I mean, they're calling it that. We
Yeah.
probably wanna wait, we're waiting for them to kind of give us a little bit more finalization
Sure.
on, they're thinking of doing it on the 15th, as Kathleen mentioned, but you know, he needed to go back and kind of talk to his students and kind of do that. So, you know, we encourage him the sooner that they can let us those kinds of things, know that that's transpiring, the better. So I think once we kind of have those details finalized, then yes, I think it would be great to kind of push that out. And part of the reason we didn't do this at night as well is, where they're putting it, and certainly not riverfronts kind of thing, but again, because of the connectivity and especially with regard to kind of arches in Union Gospel and Marion Square and all of that kind of stuff, which is across the place, is, you know, we also, you know, want to recognize that folks feel comfortable in the, you know, in the area where other folks, you know, other people are around that they may not want to be that close to, you know, when you have a large gathering of individuals. And so, you know, we wanted folks, their preference would be to do it during the day, and stuff, and then to do that. So we're not opposed to that. We have park staff who are down it. So even if they're doing installing and folks kind of migrate in to kind of see what's happening or connect to this, we can provide some assistance on, you know, hey, no, this isn't our thing. At some point you can, not yet, you know what I mean? Then you can kind of come back and
Well, the next SPAC meeting is the 13th, so is there anything that you need from us at this meeting? Or will you communicate with us, you know, in between, or
I
what do we
I have
need
it here on my note to just follow up, and see if they have any updates for us, as long as kind of getting their full vision finalized. We also asked if there's a way that they could share their aesthetic vision with us of how this would actually
that'd be
look
cool.
there.
Yeah.
So they have a couple things that they're supposed to get back to us on, and I'll reach back out to them, and Susan, I'll include you and Zach on that communication, and then we can see what they have for us. Hopefully we'll have some updates.
Great.
I mean, this should be branded as a Willamette University project with the Willamette University logo on it, not just a bunch of students. I mean, if this is really a class project from Willamette, it should be identified as such so the public knows that. Because that's the origin of this. It didn't originate here.
yeah.
But with
And that's-
SPAC also, I think it's great publicity for us.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of the messaging that they are kind of working on, to do that, and then like they'll share that with us, and
I mean, Willamette has a robust social media presence, so I mean, they could help promote this. You know, students giving back to the community, great partnership with the parks. You know, we've got a population that can use, you know, warm things,
right.
you know, just message it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's right, yeah, once it's official from them, like Salem Reporter, Press Play.
Yeah, right.
Putting in all
Well, and the
things like
city
that.
has a communications team, and they have weekly meetings, you know, that alternate between Statesman and Salem Reporter, and so they're always looking for opportunities for, you know,
Yeah.
articles and things like that. So this is another opportunity to have the communications team kind of share that it will be transpiring, you know, as a Willamette project, et cetera.
Yeah.
And this segues right into our social media plan report, because Krista can also report on it.
Yeah, so we're back in action. Our post went up today.
I'm sorry, I did skip over the downtown West Salem archive, so but let's flip, go ahead, Krista, because it was such a good, it was so smooth, I just went right into it.
Okay, sure. So yeah, it's back up. Like I said, we got the database links all fixed for the images, so I have access to all that again. And it's kind of works with also what we've been talking about. The theme for this month is going to be artists in our collection who are also highly regarded teachers and have been really active in the community. So today the focus was on James Kirk. So it was kind of funny too. Kenneth pulled up yellow flowers as the label that he was kind of using as a reference. That was the artwork that was posted today. So it all kind of comes full circle. So every week for the rest of October, that will be the focus. So.
And so I looked to see if there was a post today and I didn't see that one.
It usually comes up right around 3 or 3:30.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
early.
that's typically
got
when Trevor will post
Brian's
that.
got it up on his screen. Nice.
There have been some questions about if there's anything we could do to have a more independent social media presence.
You know, and I did ask around about that because I know there's other commissions with it. And so our communications team, they said, we really don't like it when that happens. That is something that does happen, but we would really try to advise against it. They thought that there's a much larger audience coming from the city, and they like to stick to the one city, one voice when possible. And that managing all these pages, that they've had a lot of problems with that in the past, of pages becoming abandoned or pages not having ownership or all these other things about, how to manage what comes out on these pages. So they really try to avoid it. And I said, okay, if they have more questions, I'll make sure to
What can we do to
follow up.
convince them
Yeah,
otherwise?
yeah. Yeah, so they,
Sorry, Susan, to that point too, when I started doing this last year, I did ask because I noticed that some other of the commissions, they had kind of a logo that they were using. So I
Yeah.
did ask if it was possible, or if SPAC had in the past had just kind of a SPAC logo. And that was also kind of the reasoning they gave me, was we are trying to keep it as, one city, one voice, cohesive. So they asked us not to do something like that. So I guess that kind of goes, Kathleen, to what you've been told as well, of kind of their reasoning behind that. So I get it. I mean, the one kind of note I have is the city posts so much that sometimes I do think that these get lost in the shuffle. But maybe there's another way we can somehow elevate these or utilize these in another capacity. But yeah, Susan, I have kind of asked that question as well, but have gotten the same response. So I think at least the city's aligned in how they think about it.
So as a follow-up, since I'm new and I didn't know any of that, but that's really good info to know, I'll say is not before I was on SPAC, and if I would look at this, I would have no idea who SPAC is. If those posts were from SPAC, like a layman, I think a general public just doesn't know who we are. I tell people all the time, I'm on SPAC now, what's that? Salem Public Arts Commission, what's that? What do you do? Like, that's a problem. And it's a problem that I think we've had for a long time, is that people, so I get their point of view, but I also feel like we do need something to get better branding, get better, like, just so the public knows who we are. We're not gonna get more murals and more art and more interest from the public if they don't even know we exist. So I just hope that we can somehow respect their concerns, but also have some better identity, because I feel like I've been lived in Salem my entire life and dug for this information and not been able to easily find it.
Maybe one opportunity is, as a starting point, is kind of the weekly communications and getting an article in the paper, kind of what is
Yeah.
SPAC? And then talking about this is what they kind of oversee, and here's where our mission is, kind of to get contemporary and art in the thing, and here's where you can find us, and all of those kinds of things that maybe as a starting point. I know, things happen and then it kind of goes away, but at least it helps kind of send that messaging out to kind of get, a little bit of in the front, and then maybe build on that, right? And then stuff, then we can post things, every week if we wanted to, through Salem Reporter, through Statesman, about if there's specific things that SPAC is doing to bring attention to get it more, kind of public facing on, hey, we're putting this piece, or here's something that's being worked on, or here's something, might be of interest, or some, so that might be one vehicle to kind of help with getting the messaging out for SPAC. But
I think that's, I like that idea because it uses systems that are already in place. The collection it's pretty diverse, so maybe there is a month, where water is an issue. there probably are works in the collection that relate to water in some way, or parks in some way. Or I actually think the handle of the artist as an educator and a teacher, there's plenty to talk about there. So I think that's worth trying.
Yeah.
And you know, both the Statesman and the Salem Reporter, they love the arts. So they're looking for we can help them with content easily.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we continue to hear from them is, you know, additional content that they can kind of help push out their willingness to do that. And so, and I think that's across the board, not just here, but from, you know, Parks and Recreation. I mean, using us as a division kind of thing. So I think there's lots of lost opportunities, to be honest, that we haven't captured either, and that we're trying, you know, since having some of those meetings and understanding that they are looking for additional content, you know, that they can push out, is we've been trying to be more active on, you know, it also just puts you more in the forefront of the public, right? I mean, just from a divisional standpoint, some folks don't know what all we do, right? If you're not actively involved. So it's that same kind of mindset. So I think it's, you know, I think it's, we're gonna utilize it as ourselves.
It's worth a try. I mean, it's definitely
Maybe
worth.
there's a way that we can take Chris's post. I mean, I write a little blurb for my neighborhood association because they now have neighborhood news
Yeah,
every month. So each neighborhood association gives them a little, you know, short blurb about what's going on.
Right.
I wonder if we can make that connection with Abby or whoever it is that might be covering culture, arts and culture in Salem, and Krista could just send them the post.
well, I would,
You know, that kind of
I mean,
thing,
she can
'cause
do
it's
it.
already written, she takes a lot of time and effort to write these things that are very in-depth about the artworks, and it's an instant article for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do that. I think it could be helpful if she shares that maybe with Kathleen, and Kathleen pushes it through the communication teams, because not only is it through the newspapers, but it's also the other cities' forms of communication that then they can share it as well, and that's just more social media outlets that potentially, you know, that are tied to the city that can be utilized, so.
That's like a no-brainer, I think, that, you know, if, Krista, do you send it to Kathleen, or you just go and you post it at this point?
So Keith had access to it as well. But yes, so essentially it's a Google sheet that I just add on to every week. And I just send it directly to Trevor, who posts it directly through the city. But yeah, Kathleen, I'll absolutely share that with you.
Great. Awesome. I look forward to working together on that. I really appreciate all the posts that you put together. They're fantastic. They're like one of my favorite things. They're like the highlight of what comes out on city social media.
They add a little life and color to the feed. So
it's great. So we'll work together, and maybe if you immediately have some ideas of like, oh, there's a news story here, or there's something prepared and ready to hand over, we'll work together, and I can bring that to my next meetings.
yeah, absolutely.
And the yarn bomb too, I think is a perfect thing. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's gonna be
specific,
a lot of buzz about that, and if we have, you know, a SPAC associated with that, it's like, oh, what's SPAC? Who's SPAC? So
Yeah.
I think that the more we can do things like that, the more the public will know who we are.
Definitely.
And only sort of related, but not really, just as a reminder, I work for a video production company and I love to make videos. So if this can help in any way, I volunteer my services. And I've also part-time worked at social media for a company for 8 years, so I do have some knowledge that I can help with in different ways.
I love all the volunteering of.
Did you know that Brian was the kind of the instigator for the street mural in the Scan neighborhood at the south end of Bush Park?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, and then, so I just happened to live in that Scan area, but, you know, there was drone footage, there was still photography, there were a lot of activities, you know, there was a coffee cart, there was an ice cream thing, all ages, all backgrounds of folks who showed up on all modes of transportation. And, you know, we're hoping to bring, and Susan was the instigator, one of the instigators for the Grant neighborhood first and second street mural. So we're
We do
I hope we don't
Yeah, I
seem
wanna do stuff, I wanna
We
do
do
stuff for
good.
SPAC.
we are experienced and ready
Yeah,
to dive in.
I need a
I
job.
love it. I
Well,
love that.
one kind of way also I think we can utilize the social media platform for that is a long time ago, one of the months that I wanted to do was meet SPAC. But we
Yeah.
had a lot of vacancies for a while and we kind of wanted to wait to fill some of those. And now also Zach, with that departure, things might shift around a little bit.
Sure.
I do think that could be a really great opportunity. We all introduce ourselves, we all choose a work that really resonates with us from the collection. People get to know us, they get to know our preferences. We could do an actual interview as well, like a little video, kind of fun social media video. We've never really explored that as SPAC. So I think that could be really fun in the new year to
Yeah,
kind of
for sure, it's a perfect time.
And I did notice that I think this is Walk to a Park week.
Mm.
So, but there were a number of people who commented on, their favorite park and why they liked it and.
Some SPRAT members, we did that through Salem Parks and Rec Advisory Board, that was one of our boards, and similarly, we had all of the, kind of what, along the lines, what she's talking about is,
It was good, because I actually knew some of the people.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun.
Fun.
Getting, sometime when we have like a bit more time, there, KLUZ, our local radio station,
I'm on that board too.
Brian's connected to that. But there is a program called Talking About Art. It runs every other week. The guy who runs, Joel Zach, great interviewer. And there are just opportunities that are free, in systems that already exist in our community. To just talk about, like, why are we doing this? How's the public involved? What's the location? It's good, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
should
great.
be
It's like good
exploring all of
news.
that, yeah.
Yes,
And it's in
definitely.
our
all lost-
strategic plan.
Those are all lost
That's
opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. Okay, are we ready to move
Yes.
on? The art pedestal project. Now that needs to be moving on, right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
You know what I've been doing is learning a lot. I've been doing a lot of
Yeah.
research and understanding what that project is, and Jennifer and I, we will need to take it to RFP out for a request for a proposal. Jennifer and I will need to
It's
do
not
that.
ready yet.
It's not ready yet, and what we will, a lot of the bulk of this we'll have to put together. There'll be very specific things that we'll need to know. Some of that is with the research that I've been gathering. Some of that I have that detail. But there's other details that the commission will need to pull together for us. So that's for you guys, and I know it's probably been talked about quite a bit before Jennifer and I were there. So any sort of guidance that you have for us on the larger vision, I have a lot of the specs of what the dimensions need to be, but any sort of larger visionary guidance that you have, we'll need that as well.
I think it's fair to say, piggybacking on Kelsey, there's gaps for us, we kind of are getting it
Right.
a little later on after a lot of those discussions have transpired, so anyway, so there'll be gaps that we'll be reaching out to see, hopefully that you folks can fill in for us, because we obviously want to make sure that what we're putting out there in the proposal gets us what we want in the end.
Is there a template already based on the other acquisitions that?
So we're as a starting point, yeah, we're looking at the RFPs that they utilize for this building and for the police department. So we're kind of using that as a starting point for some of the components. And then, yeah, so we're kind of taking some of that base information and then trying to incorporate from some of the research Kathleen's been doing, kind of the specifics relative to this particular project,
And
downtown project.
some of the difficulty I think that we're going to come into is I feel like I picked up on we want to do all three in one request for proposal. Is that what everybody's understanding is?
Yeah, that
Is
was
that
our
what-
intent.
that is one option.
Yeah, so if we do that, to make it broad enough, but specific enough. So broad enough to say, we need all these different types of options, you could be at all these locations, and how we want to really specify that is the person who's giving us the proposal saying it qualifies for any of the three, or it just
Right.
qualifies for the one, and especially because the funding is different for the West Salem
Right.
rather than the downtown. It's not much different, but it is different, the amount of funding that's there. So some of those specifics, as Jennifer and I work through the actual request for proposal, we'll get down to, okay, how can we make this broad enough that we're getting applications that can apply to all three essentially, or they're able to designate, I want to be at the West Salem one, or I want to be, I'm a little concerned that because the West Salem one, there is, if off the top of my head, I think has a little more of a budget applied to it, because the downtown ones, it's, off the top of my head, I could be getting these numbers wrong, but the downtown one, I think it's 50,000 for two, so basically 25 apiece, and the West Salem is 30,000. If I was an artist, I would say I wanna, of course, be able to have the larger budget, so it's little things like that that we'll have to try to navigate as we go. And when we come to that and we have those specific questions, we'll look to you guys for that. And then again, any of the visionary guidance that you have, that we should put in there for the applicants as well.
I think, just speaking from doing a little bit of public art myself, the site is very important for the artist to consider what's gonna be around it, how it's gonna be seen, maybe even picking up ideas from what's in the surroundings, not that it will always have to be there forever, but so I think as much as information you could give about the site with photos and whatnot is helpful, and then the artist may say, oh, I really like this, it's near the auto place.
Right.
And I'm gonna do something with auto things, I mean,
Yeah,
just to be really simple about it. But I think, instead of saying, oh, it could go anywhere, I think focusing on the specific sites.
Specific site locations. So someone would apply just for one specific location, essentially, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'll work through all of that, and then when we get to those, what I'm thinking is this is a subcommittee. And if I could get again a confirmation of who all is on that subcommittee, because all very shortly we'll be reaching out with some of these specific questions, so we can make sure that we have an understanding of who's on that subcommittee would be helpful.
We also need to identify who's gonna be reviewing the proposals, so.
Wouldn't that be the same group?
I would assume, but I don't know who's on your subcommittee, so I don't know, it doesn't have to necessarily be all the people on there, but I don't know how many people are on the
Is
subcommittee.
Can we only have 3 people on the subcommittee, is that?
Yeah, you can have a quorum.
Yeah, so it has to be less than majority.
I don't think that was the case with the selection of the artists for the 2 murals downtown. I think SPAC worked as a whole to do that. I'd have to go back and check. So I'd wanted to make a couple comments. I'm a former public art manager for quite a long time, and I ran the state program for my staff, managed the state program, which is quite large. My understanding is that the pieces have to be secured, have to be obtained and installed before the end of June.
That's one of the things we're looking to see is if the funding can be carried over. And
Okay.
that's not the case, because not all funding has to be spent within that fiscal year, it depends on the funding stream, the
Okay.
source, yeah.
I thought that's what Cherie said, but there is an opportunity to acquire existing work. And then there is opportunity to commission new work. So the police station was new work, the big bas relief in the interior of the library, that was new work. The pieces that are currently on the streets of Salem within the urban renewal or urban development district, those were all direct purchases. So there is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, there may be opportunities to purchase something that would not either make you extend the time frame for acquisition
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
go through someone submitting a proposal for a new work. Because it's now the middle of October. If the
Mhm.
next SPAC meeting is the middle of November and some draft is reviewed, probably has to go through your legal department, that will take a month. And then we're losing time for making this all come together.
Well, I would agree, that was our concern, that we expressed when we inherited this, is we said that, you know, that really very little had been done, that the RFP hadn't been drafted yet, and that's our concern, is because just working backwards, it should have already been done, quite honestly,
Right.
and out there. And so, you know, if there's opportunity to shorten that by securing something that's already been created, obviously that timeline is different than somebody creating something from scratch, and to do that, you know, I guess we would need to know that direction from SPAC if you want to go that shortens the, you know, like I said, that shortens the kind of posting period and acceptance and installation and all of that significantly, I would think.
Right.
But then that's how we would need to kind of, position that,
Does it have to be one or the other?
well,
It could be a combination, but what would be, I think.
It'd make it difficult though in an RFP process, because you're still having to do it for the longest period, right? Because the longest thing that takes the longest, you're gonna have to account for that time frame if you combine it into existing art versus somebody creating, because when you go it out there, you're gonna have to give them a time as if they're gonna wanna have to create it, for those people who want to create something, who don't wanna purchase something. So you're gonna have to build it around your longest length period of time, which is kind of self-defeating if you commingle it,
I don't know if we
guess.
wanna restrict it though to pieces that are already existing. That was the
I
way that I
agree.
was thinking about it, but. Depends on
I
the
suggested
timeframe.
using a portion of this meeting to actually talk about what's the vision. I found some of the direction that came from the Downtown Development Board to be not specifically helpful in terms of what we're trying to do. Like, why is the art here? Are we creating a place for people to stop and reflect? Are we creating, is it a drive-by type of experience? Is it something that relates to the history or something that happened in the downtown? You know, so I hope we can get to that in November, or have a subcommittee meeting to get some of that conversation going. It was really fun to work on the police station because they had done their due diligence as they thought about the building here and visited a number of police facilities, you know, in communities where they thought there was a connection, same size, maybe of population. And we had a meeting where the police came in, the architects came in, basically representatives from those two groups. And then SPAC came and said, here are some things that we think might be interesting. Police said, well, here's what we saw. You know, we saw tributes, we saw history, we saw things that related to our place. And the SPAC people said, you know, here are some things that we thought about. And ultimately, there was an open house at Broadway Commons for the public to come in and see, you know, here are the new features, there's gonna be a public meeting room, whatever else they were talking about. And they put boards up around the room, and the public, chief of police was there, city council people were there, and people just commented. And it was really interesting. I remember talking to the chief of police, you know, and there was the public component to planning for public art.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all want this stuff to be successful, and you know, the downtown is changing rapidly, it's gonna keep changing. And it's exciting to think about, all right, where's the art coming in? So I just want us to, I hope we can just be thoughtful and creative,
Yeah.
you know?
And also we want people to be proud, we want the public to be proud of these pieces and to take some kind of ownership of them so that they don't get just vandalized. So maybe there is a component, especially if we have more time, to get some input. I know when we did the street painting, I mean, it was a street painting, but we had, public input. We had people, at least in the first one, we had 4, different designs, and we had people and kids vote on which one was their favorite. I don't know if we can do something like that, but I think the more we involve the public, to Chris's point, I think it's.
Or at least some public.
Some
I'm not
public,
saying people's
something
choice,
that
but-
people, but not just SPAC coming in and like plunking something down in front of a business that might, also the business might be like, what's going on? Why is this in front of our business?
Yeah.
Or what, or on this particular corner. So I think it does need to have more thought, and if we could have more time for you to figure out. what
Well,
you
I
need to do with this.
I concur wholeheartedly with your thing, and I think the more you have the public who is part of that process, the more they take ownership in that, and it's well received. I think it's unfortunate again, and this isn't meant to be discouraging whatsoever, because I don't even know what the timeline was before. But this seems like a very, trying to cram all that into a very short
I
time
agree,
frame,
yeah.
and so the timeline seems to be dictating a lot of the decisions, which is, especially it seems like in the area of art, maybe is not the best approach. For some things that works fine, but in this particular, what you're trying to get out of here, I don't know that that's kind of the best approach, trying to just here's our deadline, let's get something in to do that, because I think that is kind of, ill serves what the intent is. So, I agree. I think if there's a longer time frame that allows for that opportunity to do some of those kinds of things, we'll need to do a little more checking. I just don't know that that's gonna be feasible, unfortunately, for that to happen, but
Well, you'll let us know.
we'll
and then we
do
feel
what we
Yeah.
can to, see how we can make it work.
For that.
There was in the minutes that were some people, but I had said that I wanted to be in it, I wasn't assigned
I think
to
we
it,
all,
so
I think
don't
we
know.
all have expressed interest in some
Yeah,
point.
I think everybody has, that's why I'm wondering if there's some way that we could all start out with having input at a public meeting. And, in terms of maybe having artists to event.
To move quickly and quickly get responses, what we need to avoid, Jennifer and I, is meeting a quorum. So it's like I can send out information, BCC everyone, and you can just receive information, but we can't you can't reply all, and we can't have commission members having conversations about the project. If you're met at quorum, that will ultimately impact the project, that's not available to the public. So that's what a subcommittee does, is that they're able to form ideas and then bring those form ideas back to the general group, so that the general group is making the decisions on a public format, such as a meeting here. So there's ways that I could share information with everyone. I don't know how productive that will turn out to be. We could start there. And I can work with Zach and Susan until Zach's term is up to also kind of be the real points of any sort of back and forth. We can do it that way as well, since they're chair and co-chair, or there can be a subcommittee that's formed that can actually have conversations outside of official SPAC meetings.
Well, it would be good to figure some of this stuff out so that there isn't
Yes.
a lag of a month.
Yes.
The sites have been established. We've got some direction both from the West Salem folks, from the downtown people. I would personally, as I've read the things that I've read, it would be good to get a more gelled idea of what downtown really is kind of thinking about. There's some very good people on that board. And so when they've said, groovy.
Yeah, groovy.
It's kind of like throwing that out to an artist, that's not useful.
Well, it's very subjective, so
Yeah.
what somebody thinks is groovy, somebody else doesn't necessarily, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
that's kind of an obtuse word to use when you're.
Yeah.
They presented, I think they were sort of like, oh, we just kind of came up with this, but we trust SPAC to have their expertise and do it. That's what I got from the initial
Mhm.
kind of handing it over. It's like, yeah, we kind of, threw these words around and, and we did have this discussion, but I didn't get the feeling that they wanted to be any more involved in the vision. And that they were kind of leaving that up to us. That was the impression that I got.
Well, these are not the most hospitable sites for sculpture. There's the pieces that are downtown now get vandalized, it's an issue. And so thinking about, what is attractive, inviting or provocative, resilient, what, you don't want something that's gonna have to be repaired all the time. The cube, there's cleanup work that's been overdue for quite a while. So what would be good? Is it colorful? Is it reflective? But just thinking, if the subcommittee could start chewing on some of these things, it would just be a good start.
I think looking at artists' work too, I mean, I kind of did a little AI thing, because I'm not in touch with a lot, I don't know as many Oregon artists as you would, Chris. Just to kind of get a list of artists who have done public art before in Oregon. You probably know half the people on this list. And then just go and look at the work and see if they're still actively working and what they've done before. And think, oh, well, maybe that could work on this corner, and maybe we should approach that person, send them.
Oh yeah, here we go. We're on the corner.
That's where I would wanna sort of start with artists who are working, and also, I think I mentioned this before, the artists that were rejected, not because they didn't like the work, but they just weren't the first choice for the other sites. I mean, I'm sure there are lists out there of the artists that were considered but not accepted.
Well, the city should have records of anyone who submitted a proposal for any project.
Yeah, so that would be
Purchasing
helpful.
might have that.
That would be really helpful to have that and see what was.
Yeah.
And then, I was just gonna kind of go through this list and take a look at this artist's work and see what. Yeah. So is this site where the little boy is standing, or is this site?
It's this
The square,
square right here.
Oh, it's the square. Okay.
This grate right here.
Okay.
When did the locations, when were they decided?
Quite a long
By,
time
and by
ago.
SPAC? Was it by
No.
SPAC?
Not by spec.
No.
A long time ago. I can't remember the date, but they were put in.
Yeah.
But a while back.
OSF, Chris?
So-
They had some input on that?
Yeah, they had the input on that.
They did.
And-
And why did they not wanna be involved at this point?
SPAC didn't exist.
I see.
Well, that's a good reason.
SPAC.
That's legitimate, yeah.
The Oregon Artist Series Foundation actually advocated for the establishment of the Public Art Commission. And there were a number of sites, I've been asking people to try to get to because I didn't know that the tire store corner was ever a site. I knew about the Olivia's corner, there was a corner down by the Grand Theater. I mean, there might have been 10 ideas that were out there. And then the first one that was developed was where the cube is. The second one is where the corner of Chemeketa and Liberty. And then they languished because this plunking of artwork, it's not considered a best practice any longer in the public art realm. Because there is typically almost no public involvement. But be that as may, I did a drive-through around the West Salem site it's gonna be very exciting to see that area developed.
That's this one,
Where
this
is
is what we're
that?
looking at.
What's- what is
This is this West Salem,
This is West Salem.
Second
Okay.
Street, and it's here, you can kind of see right
That's
here.
really cool.
On the
And
far
that's-
side of the street there, that's where it's.
Is that like Edgewater?
It's
They're
one
gonna
in
be
from
planting
Edgewater.
trees
One
there,
in
I
from
mean, that's.
It's one in from
that would be
Edgewater.
helpful to know what's gonna be planted around it, across the street from it, what kind of light is gonna be.
They probably have, I would think that they'd have a landscaping plan
Yeah,
already.
I drove by
Yeah.
last night and it looks really nice. Oh, this is now all open and
Yeah,
Mhm.
I went and took a look. It was quite an upgrade to this area.
Cool.
yeah, and there's some mixed use development that's already in. Is this view looking to the west?
It is, Goodwill's down on the far end of the street.
Oh, okay, you're looking at okay, I came from Goodwill in this direction. But yeah, so the mixed use that I referred to is probably off the street up here in the corner.
Yes.
Yeah, it's right, it is down from Goodwill.
Yeah, yeah, so the Goodwill is down at the far end of the street down here, and then this street that the car essentially is driving down for this photo, it has had a lot of development as well.
Mhm. There was a man, somewhere in Salem, who he came and testified before SPAC about putting a mural on the gigantic, I think it used to be some sort of manufacturing or food processing building, the one that was demolished. Yeah, that would have been super expensive, but it could have been cool.
So what we will do is, Jennifer's and I's first piece of homework is to figure out funding, so we know our timeline. And from there, we will begin to put together what we can for a proposal. Some of it won't change with any vision or anything like that. And then in the meantime, I could go back and look at the notes for who was actually assigned to the subcommittee. And we can do it. And if the subcommittee would like to have a meeting, they can do that. Otherwise, any questions I have in the meantime, if I don't hear a subcommittee is formed, I will send it either blind copy everyone, or if there's some sort of like a little administrative question, I'll just work with Susan and Zach directly for that. So we can get things moving on this and get some answers.
I think blind copying everybody, you know, cause if people might have artists that they wanna start looking at, or I would share this list with, can I do that? Can I share it with you? And then you could share it with other people to look at these artists, since I've already started doing some research, and then we could add the artists that were considered but not
Yep.
accepted, and maybe we start, it's just somewhere to start.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can send some ideas.
Great,
So if we put
Great.
together a roster of artists, and then we, you know,
great,
we can all be doing our own research too, looking at other sites and
great,
we can start there.
perfect.
Okay, great. Can I request a 5-minute break? Is that something that's we're able to do?
We
can.
can.
Just 5 minutes?
And I'm gonna have to leave at 5:30.
Okay.
So take a break.
We'll take a little break. I wish there was. Oh, yes. I wish there was like music I could play in the meantime for you guys.
really good information. I keep one by my desk in my home office.
We are back and
Yes.
we have 15 minutes and a lot more to go through on our agenda.
Okay.
We'll try and stick to it.
Maintenance, what this?
So I looked at, from the last meeting, I had Keith send me the proposals that were submitted previously to see if I can do kind of a workaround kind of thing. Unfortunately, those proposals, some of them were like over a year old. I didn't have any idea that they were that old. So I reached out to the 3 vendors previously that Keith had reached out to and asked for updated proposals so that we could kind of get this nailed down and move this along. And so they have until tomorrow at 5 to get those to me. I've received 2 of the 3. And then, so by the beginning of next week, we should be able to kind of purchase order to a person and then get that taken care of. So work with them on kind of getting that scheduled for them to do that work. So kind of had to start over because of the time frame that had been exhausted, but so very soon.
Close.
Yeah, that's great.
To make it a parkade, you had sent us an email about.
Yes.
I never saw the graffiti. I was over there.
It's up really high.
Oh, really?
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty high up near the top.
yeah, see, it's way up there,
Oh, look at that.
yeah,
That's why I didn't see it.
it's not that. It almost looks like it could be camouflage, like, when people do tattoos and they wanna.
Wasn't there another area too that had it in it as well?
Yes, there is a second area
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, there.
Oh,
It's even worse.
wait a minute. Can you zoom in on that red mark?
It is,
It is probably what you think it
It
is.
is.
That is, I saw that marking on the restrooms in Bush Park.
Yeah.
Would that suggest that it was the same person?
Well, it would suggest maybe or the same group of, yeah,
Yes.
those kids, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was down there to look at a bunch of stuff. It was before the shooting and, yeah.
Yeah, it's we don't have time. It's a large, that is, by kids who go to South Salem High School. It's an ongoing issue for us.
So that's something that you could take back to scan, just, it's, yeah,
We've had lots of meetings with South Salem High. We've had lots of, it's an ongoing kids who basically are truant all day long and wanna use that as their place to hang on. And we're kind of
oh, yeah.
interested as to why they're not in school and why the school district isn't concerned that they're not in school day after day after day, but that's for
Oh,
another,
yeah.
that's for another conversation, I guess.
We-
But it's a level of frustration for sure for us.
We live in
Yeah.
that, we live in that.
Yeah,
Brian lives closer. It's a bummer.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, yeah, very.
And you heard from the artist.
I did. I heard from the artist. I was really hoping, we're gonna get this, it's an easy fix, right? We can just get the graffiti repaired. I can see the can of worms that this is and why it has been difficult. So when the artist took a look at the photos, his main concern is actually
Yeah.
the current condition of the mural
Yeah, sure.
itself.
Oh, wow.
So in the cracking, peeling of the entire, and fading of the entire mural was a real concern for him. So even if he was able to come out and do a repair, color match is no longer really an option. He can't use the same colors, so that's a big concern for him. And then the overall condition of the piece as well. So he said he was going to make a trip out to Salem here in the next couple weeks and he wants to see it in person to see what he can do. And then he'll get back to us. His one question was an anti-UV, an anti-graffiti coating ever put on this? And from what I've asked Keith, he didn't believe so. I did actually find a quote to do it.
Oh,
I don't think it was actually ever completed. I think maybe we just got a quote for what it would cost to do the repair. And a lot of this fading, he said, and obviously the graffiti could be avoided with that. And I think I've heard that that is something moving forward now that we require,
Yeah.
which is great. And I know another part of this is that anti-graffiti coating, and now that I'm aware that there also needs to be an anti-UV coating, hopefully they're the same product. I am working with facilities to at least have an estimate on hand for what it would be for our facilities to apply just that coating after repairs are made, so we can know the cost comparison. If we want our facilities to do it after repairs are completed, or if the artist who makes repairs completes it. I will say, I can't imagine
Wow, look at that.
what the repair of this entire mural, that would probably be a significant cost, and I don't know if once facility looks at it, they're like, well, we can't put a coating on something that is flaky and peeling. So there might be more to come with this, and it's a bit of a can of worms, but we'll work through it together.
Are we asking the artist for an estimate though on repairing it?
Yes, yeah, he'll get that to us all shortly. Again, next couple weeks, see it in person, and then we'll go from there.
What's his name again?
Blaine Fontana.
Blaine Fontana.
He is one of the best muralists in Oregon, probably the Northwest. Really good guy, very professional. He is the artist. He did not design, but he executed the mural on the cherry pitting, the cherry producers out by the State Fair.
Yeah.
He's a very, he's a very talented, really nice fellow to work with. I think he lives in Beaverton. He does work all over the country. The city paid $25,000 for that mural, that's a bargain for this scale of it.
I would think so. It's a bummer to see it in the condition it is. Hopefully we can.
I had no idea of the flaking. Thank you for showing the photographs.
Yeah.
Wow. Sobering.
Okay, do we know anything about the Jefferson Street mural?
I haven't heard an update.
Eddie's not here.
Yeah, I have not heard an update.
I don't, I would text him, but I don't think we have time. Maybe I'll do that after the meeting.
Can I,
Find out what's going on.
I've never been able to see the mural in person. I got confused with some one-way streets over there. Is it true that it is behind a locked gate on the alley side?
No, I don't think there's gates locked. No, it's in the alley
Okay,
that you can enter from two ends.
okay, I'll do a drive-by
It's a
tomorrow.
narrow alley. It's a narrow alley. I don't even know if it's like a drive-through. I guess it's not as big as the alleys that I'm used to. You probably drive. From what I remember, I was there when they first started it. Can we move along to new business?
Yeah.
Bloomberg asphalt grant.
Yes, so I've been receiving a lot of excited emails by people who would love to see us do this. I did, again, more research and learning, and it looks like a lot of work went into the last one. Was that a committee that put that together?
The city, I think, the mayor, if I'm not mistaken,
It's
and
Linda-
people.
Linda Nishioka.
Was it Linda? They did it, they asked for some input, and I think, Zach wrote something for it,
Okay.
which they didn't use. It was a letter,
No,
they didn't use it, but.
I wrote it.
Oh, did you?
I wrote a letter of support, which was then signed by the city manager and submitted with the application.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Great. Did not know that.
And so what I would suggest is it seems like it's been suggested that SPAC takes part in this asphalt grant. That this group is the one who applies for the asphalt grant, is that?
It was the city.
Okay.
I think it's a really cool program, and if you have time, go on the Bloomberg website. They've got lots of great examples. My sense, and I was a government funder for years, the city of Salem's not ready to be successful with a proposal at this time. There's there probably hasn't been enough outdoor public art that is the result of a comprehensive collaborative planning effort. Like this, we don't have a master plan for public art. And we don't have, I don't think we have enough ammo in our gun to get over the line. I think what Salem might consider is having a work session that actually really looks at what this program aims to do and then looks at what we would need to do to be successful. So because otherwise we're gonna get rejected again. I can tell you that.
I was curious as to if they indicated, but it sounds like you're kind of addressing that, what we were deficient in, what some of the criteria is that we didn't meet, but it sounds like it's just premature for us for where we are in our city's program for art, maybe.
So if you look at what we've got, we have a collection of 171 pieces.
Right.
Okay, most of those pieces are what would be described as a portable works collection in the library, like a painting, a drawing, a sculpture. Okay, that's not necessarily public art, that's artwork that's in a library. If you look at the robust projects that have been funded by Bloomberg, there could be, let's say, we've got a blighted neighborhood.
Right.
And we want to help create a safe passage through it. Maybe you have adjacent residential neighborhood, and then maybe you have a school. And there's some great examples of how the Bloomberg process of literally using paint to animate a path to a particular area. I mean, there's one that's really cool where the path was a river or a sea, and then there were different kinds of boats, and then the boats docked in the parking lot at the school. They're really fun. And I mean, Salem is just ripe for something like this, but we don't have enough in place that would show anybody that we could be successful. And our legal team is very risk averse, so they're not willing to take the plunge to allow us to have a mural on the round tank at the Cherry Pitters. It was not a wall because it was round.
We had to change the code.
So, I mean, I wrote what I thought was a super compelling letter of support that the city manager signed, all about how the dynamics of the north end of the Riverfront Park were gonna change. We have a pedestrian bridge, we've got new development. I thought, well, hopefully this is gonna help. No, we got rejected.
Do you think though that since we have that already, I mean, all right, maybe we will get rejected because we don't have all that in place, but we do have a history of doing asphalt paintings with the community. I know it's a bigger scale, I know that they're looking for other things, but, and I don't even know how that Riverfront project came about. I mean, who decided it? I mean, there were images and, it was, I don't know, as far as I know, SPAC wasn't really involved, and it was kind of delivered to us as like a package, like, we're gonna apply for this. Here's what it's gonna look like. And then they asked for the letters of support.
Well, the site was, various people weighed in. So, where is there traffic? Where are people, and I meant like pedestrian, bicycle. So there's a pedestrian bridge, that was an award-winning project.
Union Street Bridge?
Union Street Bridge. We've got an active, beautiful Riverfront Park, it's by it's green. We've got, the city has invested in the trail over the bridge.
Well, there's the connectivity between it.
Exactly, so
I think it was a great site,
that
and
site
I liked
was-
it, but I wonder if it's worth it just to try again, just to submit the same thing again. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think if we got the grant, we could pull it off. I mean, but you know more about what they might be looking for, but would it really hurt that much to resubmit it as is?
What was the ask? What were the amount?
I'd have to go back to
Yeah.
I can't
I mean, it's
remember.
already done.
Just kind of freshen it up a bit
Yeah.
or something.
And resubmit it, I mean, or would that do more harm than good? To say
I don't
you're-
think there's
Interesting.
harm, but, you know, you want, I don't know how many proposals come into this funding pool,
Mhm.
but you don't want to be the city that is just not ready. You know, you don't want Salem, it's like, oh, here they are again. You know, you want to be able to come in with, we've done this, the city we're committed to this financially. I don't know,
And
I
was
mean,
that not part of the proposal?
I don't remember.
So are you saying you think it would be helpful to not necessarily apply this year and then show some progression of how we're starting to incorporate some of those things and then be able to demonstrate, you know, hey, we've actively each year, you know what I mean, or over time incorporated these things, so to put us on that path for something like that.
That's my recommendation, but I really do suggest getting on their site and then looking, because I pulled some slides when we put together that street mural presentation. You know, and I also think that the competitive proposals are the result of various parts of the city coming together to find a solution to an issue. You know, whether it's creating this safe walking to schools, then there's a lot more of that in Salem now, a lot more energy behind, she's coming tonight to scan. Or there's a different kind of development.
We have the bikeway at Union Street, that's brand new. I mean, they've redone that whole street, you know, leading up to it. I mean, it's sort of a perfect segue into that if we could, you know, but I don't know if we pull that information together in time. So do you want to know, what is the deadline for that?
I don't know, off the top of my hand.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
So maybe
You know
that's
what?
something, the bikeway, you know, but I know that
I think it's before too long though.
yeah, if
I-
it is,
yeah.
then maybe we go aim for next year
I
and
was thinking
time
it was
to
like
get, and but maybe
November-ish.
not having to.
It may be November.
reinvent.
I was thinking
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the
That
back of my
sounds-
head,
that would
so
be
I'm not,
good.
I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
when I first.
I mean, I think Salem's just got a lot of moving pieces right now. The street murals, you know, there's good energy behind that. I do think the site at the nexus of the path coming and the road coming out of Riverfront Park, the Union Street Bridge, the new downtown development, I actually think that's a highly attractive area. I think we were deficient in, there's not a master plan for public art. And it could have been the fact that the city maybe was only gonna put some in-kind stuff in, I just don't remember. But I'll tell you, some of these other places, they
No,
have
we
more
did a
money
lot
and they've
of,
got
yeah.
big ideas.
We researched that before we did our street painting, and that was, we had, you know, cited, you know, what's been done, and then we scaled back and we did what we could do, you know, we
Yeah.
did one. But we can only do what we can do, we're not, you know, I mean, it would be great to have something major like that, but it's a first stab at it, you know, but I don't know, you know more than I do about how they look at the holistic, you know,
Well,
view of a city or in terms of giving those grants, so we wouldn't wanna spin your wheels either,
right,
especially if it's a short timeframe.
I would be happy to-
Just resubmit.
I'd be happy to look at the guidelines again on Friday and just, if we had a more kind of under our belt, I think we would be more competitive.
Will we have more under our belt? I mean,
In a month? No.
What will we? Right.
Well, we have the yarn bomb.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah.
that will be first base.
You know, I don't know whether it's a major business leader or the mayor or someone like that, but some of these cities that get these grants, they are just thinking so big and
Right.
creatively
Yeah.
that,
Right.
you know, that's, a funder can get excited about it.
Yeah.
But I'm really appreciative that we have city council people in Salem who want things like this to happen, and I think we should just be purposeful, keeping it on the agenda and, you know, trying to just get stronger, you know, every quarter.
Yeah.
So that we just have more tools in our toolbox going forward.
And as a goal, maybe that could be a goal to get enough under our belt and to get support in order to do it. So maybe we table the application for this year. Is that something that,
Well, I don't think it would be hard to pull it off in a month.
We can look, and then let you folks know, kind of thing as to, cause I could be way up, I don't know, I just, for some reason.
It's
like
January
November.
31st.
Oh, it's January 31st. Oh, well, see, I was wrong.
Other 60
You got-
days.
And we've got the holiday season in there. Anyway, yeah.
well, we can talk about it. We can keep it on the agenda
Okay.
and then we'll see what happens next.
You know, just the last comment on that. I am curious about the Block 50, you know, just thinking about how the downtown is gonna kind of be changed with some of the new development. So, you know, is there gonna be any open space around that? Will there be a gathering space? Same with the block at the south end of Riverfront Park.
Oh, Water Street.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the one on the corner.
Mhm.
You know, what could happen there? You know, just stuff like that. Every time I drive by the block with the where the old Rite Aid was, I think, you know, is that the next development? I know Deacon Development's gonna do a piece over kind of towards La Margarita, that
Oh,
the
that
hole in the
area?
ground. You know, just,
Yeah.
just thinking about that stuff.
Okay, I think we should probably get moving along, it's
Yeah.
getting late. Commission terms and elections, I guess. Zach has already said, I didn't realize, is it a 3-year term or a 2-year
It is
term?
a 3-year term.
And I've already been on it for 3 years, gosh, time flies. Wow. Okay,
When is Spencer's term up? Oh, next December.
Next December.
Okay.
oh, cause he's already on his second term, right, okay, and I already did indicate that I applied.
For reappointment.
I did.
And so since I'm really new, I do not know how elections work. So that will need to happen sometime very soon, I'm sure. And we'll need to think about that.
So how it works and how we do it kind of at SPRAB and it works successful is, you know, it really gives folks an opportunity to say, at one meeting, kind of like, I'm interested in the position and, you know, putting my hand forward. You can take a vote and then nominate people and then do that and it'd be effective. But you can also be like, hey, we're gonna be giving a heads up. Next meeting, for example, we're gonna be taking nominations. So if you're interested in doing that, then put your, you know, and for what position. So if you're interested in chair or vice chair or whatever, or sort of Susan, if you were interested in chair or vice chair, whatever, with Zach leaving. And then, you know, certainly you'll want to do that no later than the December meeting, because Zach's term expires in December. So that way in January, your new chair and vice chair are in place. You're not doing elections at that meeting. So you would need to vote by then. But so you can either let folks know that for like maybe the next meeting, if you're interested, that, you know, put your name out there for next meeting and we're gonna vote in December, or you can.
Yeah, would that look like, so nominations in November and then a vote in December?
You can do it in the same, and we've also had where really folks aren't interested. It's the same, you know, two people that were like, oh, I'm interested, or they swap or whatever kind of thing. You don't have a high level of interest, and so it's pretty straightforward, but, and I don't know, you know, people's level of interest here at SPAC, but, and then you would take the nominations first, you know, for chair, and then you would vote on that, somebody would make a move, you know, so-and-so to nominate Fred for chair, and then you vote on that, and then that's thing, and then similarly, you would do a motion then for vice chair. And then obviously that would take effect in January.
Is that similar to how you guys have done it in the past?
Yes,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
since, yeah.
Wait a second, 2022 to 2024 is only 2 years, right?
And that,
Somebody could have been appointed for
For a partial term, so
Mine's
you-
only 1 year.
you may have,
Yeah.
you may
Yeah,
have
so
filled
you-
someone who.
you filled
I
a
see.
vacancy, so you do a
Okay, 'cause it
partial,
didn't feel like
and then
3
you do
years.
another, and then you do another one, yeah, so
Okay.
you probably were a partial, and that's
I-
why, yeah.
Don't recall, but that, thank you, that kind of, it disturbed my reality with you. 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, but taking act, having this conversation, this on the discussion in November is the
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
okay, great.
Okay, annual report, and that has a deadline.
It does, it's coming up
Yes.
soon.
Yes.
And so Zach had brought it up at the previous meeting. He didn't know if somebody was willing to raise their hand to actually be the person who does a presentation to council, knowing that he is ending his term. So I didn't know if there was anybody who was willing to be that point person. And then I will also, because I am not familiar with the work that's been done over the last year, I will need some people to reach out to make sure that I have everything included in the agenda. And more than anything, I need to take all ideas of what should be on there, any suggestions you have of what you would like included in this annual report. I'm open and I'm ready to.
We have the, I sort of printed out the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could start with that as a template, because some of the things will be
Yeah.
repeated. And then we can add new things to it, so don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes, definitely.
And I think I'd like to be, I'd be interested in doing it not only for presenting, but also because what we use here, we can use for the neighborhood associations, which is something that I'm really interested in doing. I don't know if we would have time to do a little video presentation kind of based on this, that would be, I know I've, you know, I don't know if they even do that in council, do they do videos? Do they show videos?
You could put a video embedded within a PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah.
You will not have a lot of,
That's what I was gonna say, you have a very small
you
window.
you have a
Yeah.
very small window,
Right.
and the
I was there
printed
the last
report
time.
is gonna have most of your information,
Is it-
and your job is to really call out the highlights.
Right,
Yeah, they're usually tight.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he
5
did
minutes
go
is usually
through
good.
the whole,
Mhm.
this whole presentation just pretty quickly. But,
And the council has always been, they're very receptive.
they are,
And, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm always interested in what people kind of offer. You know, things that I didn't know. Like I helped raise the money for the Echo Earth Club. Whoa, didn't know that. Way back then, you know, not anybody who's on council now, but, you know, so, yeah, so it's like, and so make sure you get that repaired. It's like, okay.
Maybe in your presentation, you can provide access to like a link or something where they can watch a video or something at their own leisure, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, we
Or
could
something
say-
like
That's a
that,
good
to
idea.
do something.
Right.
So Jennifer, as a point of order, would we take a vote on Susan being my point person or being the
No.
point person for this? We
No.
can just say,
No, she can just volunteer and, yeah.
Susan's volunteered. That's
Everybody
amazing.
okay
Thank you
with
so
that?
much.
You can see
reach out to
that
other
Susan was
people.
the only volunteer.
Yeah.
So you'll,
I can reach out to other people too.
So you'll
Perfect.
want to bring back though the your annual report for you folks to vote on, right? So you will
Okay.
need to bring
Oh,
it
okay.
back to the commission to be like, here's our, you know, share it with them so that they can offer input, right? So
Okay.
bring it back to the board meeting, so maybe, you know, certainly by December because you're gonna present this in January.
February is when we do it,
Yeah,
okay.
and so, certainly no later than December, because you'll want time to make edits, so you wanna bring it back to the board. You can have, it can be sent out in the packet in advance, so that you have,
Okay.
folks have opportunity to look at it ahead of time, so that they can offer any comments or edits or, you know, suggestions, and then you can vote on it either, you know, barring none, or approve it with whatever recommendations that they make, and then you go back and do it. But you wanna have it kind of sanctioned, because it's a representation of this, of the SPAC commission, so you wanna kind of codify that everybody was supportive of what you're presenting, you know, in
Right.
essence.
Right.
So I do have, this was the annual report written out just as a document, and then I have it also as the PowerPoint, so we'll work together and
Okay,
update that for this year. Thank you.
okay. Moving on. Oregon's public meeting law training. What is that?
What is that? Great question. I wanted to make sure that you were all aware that you were supposed to take an annual training on Oregon public meeting law. So I wanted to first check in to make sure that you weren't receiving this from multiple directions and and I wasn't redundant. But since it seems like fairly new information, I'll make sure to email everyone to make sure that they have a link to take the training on public meeting law.
Okay.
So it's an all online, self-directed?
It is.
All online.
I know I've done it
Yeah.
with a trainer in the room, but not in the the year, so
Yeah.
great.
So, yeah, it's every board and commission member, and the onus is kind of on the,
Mhm.
you know, self-policing, I guess, that you do it, you know?
No, it's good.
Yeah, just to make you more knowledgeable, just so inadvertently no one gets in trouble by, you know, not
Okay,
doing
not
something.
doing it.
Yeah, not intentionally, just,
Mhm.
whoops, I didn't realize we couldn't do that, you know, kind of.
And I'm going to make an edit. It's not once per year. It is once during the term of office. So if you have 2 terms, you will need to take it during both.
They were very clear on that.
Yeah.
To be like, well, I already took it, nope, you gotta take it again, in the second term, yeah.
Okay, great. So, yeah,
So that's.
I'll send that out to everyone, make sure you have the link and you can sign up for the
Okay.
training. I'm not sure if it's self-guided or if it's like they release a pre-recorded, or if it's virtual, but you have to attend. I'm not sure.
got it.
I'm not sure.
It seemed like it was not too cumbersome, you know, it was
Right.
pretty short thing, you know, just.
Action items, I guess, to do the training.
Yeah.
Any other action items that we have, work with you, I'm gonna work with you on the presentation.
could you circulate if it's available, the last Bluebird application?
Yeah, so I absolutely can. The problem with it is, it's an online form
Oh,
with a
got it.
fillable form, so that part you can't see. And then I've actually tried to send out the attachment and it gets dropped off on some emails. It's just too big of a PDF to send, so let me see if I can't reduce the size of it, maybe if it's just low quality, so you could have the attachment that was the bulk of the,
Is there like maybe put it in a share file and a
yeah,
link to it
yeah, I could
maybe
do a
or
share file
something?
too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then maybe a link to it that maybe
Drive
folks
somewhere.
could pull up, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really not computer literate,
Does
so.
it use, Google Drive or something like that?
I
for-
can use it. It's not what we use for our file sharing, but I have access to it, I can use it.
Yeah, that would be. Comments, commissioner comments? I have one comment, and I don't think that it's a conflict of interest or anything, but sort of like, you know, that I am gonna be on the Oregon Art Commission, reviewing committee for the neighborhood art, what is it called, community arts?
Arts build communities.
Arts Build Community Grants, which actually, the meeting for orientation started now, but I can review it, so I just want to let people know that I'm gonna be involved with that.
All right.
And we should, I mean, I think Salem in general, because I used to run the Oregon Arts Commission. We should generate more applications for state funding because the money's there and
Yeah.
there could be more projects here that would be deserving.
But I would have to recuse myself from those.
No, you wouldn't, you don't have a conflict,
Not unless you have a
No.
conflict.
not unless you have a conflict.
And you can still,
So
even if
being
you
on
have
the
a
commission.
conflict, if you say it and still think, okay, I can separate and vote, you can still
Okay.
vote. A lot of folks don't because they don't wanna necessarily have to, but technically,
Uh-huh.
if you identify that you're on this and have a conflict, you can still vote, but
Yeah, it's the first
You
time
know,
I've
so
done it,
so for example, like I always tell Kathleen Fish when I see things that World Beat should apply for, or Salem Art, or anybody else. I mean, it could be Make Music Day, like Make Music Day could be one of these applicants. And I mean, just in general, Salem, we don't generate a lot of funding requests, so we don't get money back, so we should just keep getting the word out, you know?
They did just announce a whole block of funding though for organizations.
A bunch,
A lot
yeah.
of them got, a lot of
oh,
our
that's great.
local arts organizations got.
Great.
So
That's great.
Okay, I guess we can adjourn.
All right.
It's 10:06 or 8:06. You stayed past your.
Well, I didn't think it would, even though people kept texting me, I just been pushing them off. Bye, Krista.
Okay, thanks a lot, bye Krista. Good luck this weekend, don't you have a big weekend there?
Yes, we do. Yes, thank you.
Good luck, have
Be
fun.
All right, thanks everyone.
What's happening there?
They have their
A pickup party, so it's
party for the.
Oh,
8 days and 1,000 people coming up to the hill, so
Yeah,
oh, wow,
yeah,
great.
wow.
be good. But good to see you all. Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh.